Well, if you're watching this video, first we'd like to thank you for your heart to serve in these different service roles. What we're going to talk about right now is the time of altar. It's the time in the service where we want to encourage people to come up to have this moment as a special time and use the altar as a special meeting place between them and God. They can come up by themselves and have a quiet moment. They can come up with their family. They can join hands with someone. There'll be people up here from the church community to lay hands on them and pray with them. We also have the God box right here, and we want to encourage them that if they have written prayer requests, that they would be dropped into that box. We also want to remind people that as believers, to get their heart right with God, if they would like to come forward and confess any known sins, receive communion with their family or themselves, that's also strongly encouraged. A couple things to remember. We're looking to make this message 2 to 3 minutes. You want to come up, if it seems right at that moment, to start with prayer. You can start with a short prayer and really focus on one main point, a story or one scripture that delivers one key point home. People will lose their interest, they'll lose their focus if you're too long in what you say. So really focus on that one point, drive it home, and it's to elicit a response, to stir people's hearts to come out of their seats and to come forward and have that time with God in prayer. And here are some tips to help you with a successful altar message. Pay attention to the music. I think that the type of song that finishes just before you come up, if it's a solemn and really everyone's already in a mode of quiet type worship, then you may want to start with a prayer. You don't want to come up on stage really upbeat and perky and happy and clapping your hands if it's a quiet, solemn moment. And on the other side, if it's that upbeat and happy kind of song, you want to come up with that energy. Makes for a more smooth transition. Would also probably determine if you do open with prayer or if you go right into the message. The other thing to remember, and a great icebreaker and to make it more comfortable for people, is to kind of get the point first thing. So when you come up, you let everybody know what it is. Say, hey, if you're new here, even if you're not, this is nothing scary. This is just a time we encourage you to come up. You can drop your written prayer requests in the God box. We do encourage you to receive communion by yourself or with your family. Then you can get into your personal message. That's when you can pull out the scripture or your story and then deliver your message after that. It's a much smoother transition to have those key points done first than it is to deliver a message and try and throw those key points at the end. It'll be a little more seamless that way. Now that we've got the key points out of the way, let's focus on the message for a minute. We've talked about this a few times. We've mentioned this a few times. The big thing to remember is you've really only got, after you hit the God box point, the communion points, you're really looking at around 2 minutes. The best way to get this done is to really focus in on one scripture or one story. You're going to lose people if you get too many points in a row, if you go too long on that, and we really want to stir in people's hearts to bring them to this altar. So it's very important that you remember throughout the week, seek God's guidance, pray about it, come prepared and ready to deliver your message so that it's going to get across. You'll deliver the point, it'll be concise, and it will elicit a response out of the congregation to come to the altar. Encourage them, invite them to the altar, and even encourage them by mentioning they will be greeted by either you or other members of the pastoral team that will be up here to take hands with them and to lay hands on them and pray with them. We really want to make sure we emphasize the spirit of what this time represents. This really is meant to communicate to the congregation that this is nothing weird, it's nothing spooky, it shouldn't be scary. We want to encourage them to get up out of their seats, to come forward and to have this quiet, this time of worship, this time of prayer with God. It's just between them and God. They can bring any of their burdens, any of their worries, their praise, whatever it may be, and leave it here at the altar for God, that He's going to handle it for them. And we want them to feel as comfortable as possible to get up out of their seat and make that step forward. And the last thing we want to remind you of, number one, if you are on the schedule for that weekend, please accept the invitation in Planning Center so we can better plan the weekend. Number two, if you are scheduled on Saturday night or Sunday morning, there's a meeting in the green room 15 minutes prior to service. It's imperative that you're here for that meeting so you can meet with the rest of the team that's serving that weekend. And if there's any last minute changes or announcements that need to be made, this would be the time they would be discussed. And lastly, if you do commit to Sunday, We strongly ask that you would be here for the service role in both services. That doesn't mean you have to stay for the duration of both services, just until those roles are completed at both services. Again, we just want to thank you for watching this video. Thank you for your heart to serve. We hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested, you'd like to learn more information, just check out our website at www.journeyuniversity.org.